Oh, hey, I was just looking at, see, it's weird, this little piece right here. It's like, see, I don't know if you can see it, but see that little spot right there? That, like, empty spot? That was, like, first patch that I ever got right there. That was the first patch I ever got of gray hair. And it used to flow down like a little piece of gray. Now, it's just weird looking because when I shaved my hair, this looks all patchy. It'll grow out. It'll look better once it starts growing out again. But I had to shave it because I was really stressed out. I was in a lot of pain, and when I get crazy, like stressed out and shit, the first thing I want to do is pull my hair, and then I really hurt myself. I've had enough head injuries. I've had a lot of head injuries, and so the first thing I would do was to protect myself was to shave my head. Plus, I'm in Florida, and it's always freaking hot here, so I have that beautiful wig that I wear in my other videos. That's a very expensive wig. I love that because when I was in my 20s, that's how my hair used to look 30 years ago. But anyway, my hair doesn't look like that anymore. I haven't seen that kind of hair in 30 years, but I don't even want to wear the wig. And it's January and it's still hot to wear the wig. I'm like, it's always freaking hot in Florida. Anyway, I want to continue telling you about the worst place because that one video I got choked up trying to remember it. And I think I can handle telling you about it now because I had some time to relax into it. Okay, so I was in Sarasota. It's a it's a city uh, about an hour and a half away from where I live, and part of it's, I think part of it's in Manatee County, or no, it's in Sarasota County, and I don't know. Anyway, it's a city down there. It's mostly just suburban beach town with a lot of frou-frou types, a lot of frou-frou types. Mm. But I was there. Why was I there? I used to have family that lived in Bradenton and Sarasota. I had aunts and cousins that used to live over there. So I was there visiting somebody. I don't know, stay hanging out with one of my family members, and I don't know. Who knows? Maybe I was being rude and obnoxious, or they were being rude and obnoxious because it runs in my family, and we weren't getting along. So I took off, and somehow I got Baker acted. Yeah, either I was either in I think I was in Sarasota County. And then when I got released, um, they released me. I think I was there for about a week. They released me, but they just released me without, I didn't have anybody, so they were done with me after a week. And I don't even know what I don't even remember. I don't even remember the spaz out. I don't even remember. But after a week, they were done with me, and they just basically released me to the street. And I didn't have anywhere to go at the time. I was really lost and confused, and I didn't. I wasn't getting along, obviously, with whoever I went to visit or check on to see if I could stay with them, because I mean they weren't, I guess, too pleased with me wanting to stay with them. So I was back on the street, and I went to one of the shelters that they recommended for the homeless people because I told them I don't really have anywhere to go. And they said, well, there's the shelter, blah, 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 go. So I went. I went to the shelter first. And it was all right. I mean, the only thing is, they didn't have, I mean, basically, you had to sleep on the floor. They gave you some kind of like little mat or something that you could sleep on the floor with. And I was like, okay with that. But the but was they wouldn't turn the lights off. I mean, it was bright, bright lights like this, like just this bright. I can't sleep like that. Like when I go to sleep, I can't deal with the television on, and I can't deal with bright lights. Bright lights or loud sound, I can't sleep. And I was trying really hard. I mean, I was trying, but I couldn't sleep. So I said, "Are you guys ever going to turn the lights off?" They said, "No, we never turn the lights off." Never? You never turn the. It's this bright. I have to sleep in this kind of brightness. I mean, like sometimes I can sleep during the day. I mean, I have to be super super tired, but I can't like, you know, just normally go to sleep in that kind of brightness. I have to be like exhausted. And I wasn't exhausted, so I couldn't sleep. And then what am I gonna do? Just sit there like all night, staring at all these people sleeping? I had like ants in my pants and I was having like anxiety. So I said, well, I gotta get out of here. I can't like sit here all night in the bright light because I'm not tired. They're like, well, if you leave, it's past curfew, you can't come back in. And I was like, because it was like 11:30, when I asked them about when they were going to turn the lights off. It was like 11:30, close to midnight already. And they were like, yeah, if you leave, you can't come back in tonight. And I was like, I can't sleep. Like I don't want to just sit here and stare at sleeping people. Like, well, you can't come back and not tonight. And I was like, huh, great. I was like, fine. And then I'd rather just walk around all night, than just sitting here staring at sleeping people in the bright light. So I said, fine. So they let me out. Well, there I was out on the street, just walking around, smoking my cigarettes, walking around. And in about 2 hours, I mean, it must have been 2 or 3 hours, about 1 or 2 o'clock, I started getting tired. I was getting tired and I couldn't walk around anymore, and there was nowhere to go. And I knew I couldn't go back in, and it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and what choice did I have? I didn't have money for a hotel. I didn't have a car at the time. What was I going to do? Sleep on a park bench? Or I didn't even know where the park bench was. I really didn't know that county at all. So what was my choices? You know, Basically I could sleep on the sidewalk or just keep walking around until I pass out. So I kept walking and I kept walking, and then finally I was in some neighborhood. It was like an abandoned section, or you know, yeah, it looked like a whole block that had been sort of abandoned, and it was these like really really run down like townhouses, and they were just abandoned. Like I don't know how old they were or how long they had been there or why they got abandoned. I don't know what happened. So I started snooping. Some of the doors were wide open. I mean, some of it was vandalized. Some of it you could tell people were messing it up, and who knows what they were doing in there. But there wasn't. I didn't hear anybody. I didn't see anybody. So I started snooping for an open door, just thinking maybe I could just crash in one of the townhouses that might be open. So I did. There was this townhouse. It was all beat up and old and abandoned, and it was it was ugly. And but the door was wide open, so I went in, and I mean, it was like there was broken shit all over the place. You could tell other people had been in there either partying or sleeping or whatever. There was garbage all over the place. It was just really, I mean, I know, and it was dark. There wasn't much light. Like the only light that was coming in was either from the moon or the street lamps outside. There was like no light. There was no electric. I didn't have a flashlight. I didn't have my all I had was my cigarette and my lighter, but I mean I could still see there was a lot of garbage. Anyway, so I was trying to look for a spot, to just like crash out because I was really fucking tired. I mean, at this point I could not walk anymore. It was probably like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I had been walking for 2 or 3 hours and I was just beat. And I knew I couldn't go back to the shelter. So mm, I went up the stairs, and there was like this old rotted mattress. It was like that mattress must have been there. It was as old as the building. It was probably like the first and only mattress that ever existed in this townhouse. It was never removed. And it was like almost like there had been a fire or something in there, because it was like it wasn't burned, but it was like rotted. Like I don't know if it was water damage, or I mean, I don't know if it was just rotting from that many years of being abandoned, I really don't know, but it was really rotted. And there were bugs, like really bad, like all kinds. I couldn't see in the dark, you know. I didn't know if they were, you know, roaches or those, what are they called? Those the big roaches, super roach. What is that called? The palmettos, you know. There you could hear them, you could kind of see things like little buggy things moving. And I knew there was tons of bugs all over the place, but I was so tired at that point, whether it was 2 or 3 in the morning after all that walking, and it was dark. At least it was dark. It was really, you know, it was dark and it was quiet and it was scary. I was scared. It was like I was in a haunted house movie or something. I was scared because I didn't know if other people were going to come in and say, "What the fuck are you doing here?" You know, I didn't know how long I could grab a few Z's. But I just was too tired to care. I was so tired and I didn't want to sleep on the sidewalk. So I just passed out right there. I didn't even give a shit that there were a million fucking bugs all over the place. That the mattress was all disgusting and rotted. I was in like jeans and a t-shirt, you know. I mean, I was in shitty clothes. I didn't care. I just passed out right there. And then I slept for hmm, I guess I slept for about 3 or 4 hours, and I woke up and the sun was coming up, so there was light, and then I could see just how bad it was. You know, it was worse than, of course, in the light when the sunlight was coming through. It was even worse than what it looked like at night. But at night, it was super scary because it was just an abandoned building, and it had a whole bunch of bugs. It was creepy. I was scared. I was all alone, and that was pretty bad. Um, that was probably the worst. And the next night, I didn't stay in the house. The next night, I slept on a plank. It was like this wooden plank by a dumpster, and it had nails on it. I'm surprised I didn't get poked by the nails. And a raccoon was jumping into the dumpster. And that's when I started. That was the first time I started talking to animals. Yeah, me and the raccoon had an entire conversation. He was looking at me like, "The fuck are you doing? Just sleeping out there like that? Are you fucking crazy?" And I was like, "Probably. I mean, I've been to the mental institution many times, but they don't think I'm crazy enough to be committed forever, so they usually let me out." Anyway, that was the first time I started talking to animals. He got his shit from the dumpster and took off, and he didn't bother me. I think he was just like, why should I fuck with her? She's not fucking with me, and she's probably gonna get hurt on that plank with some fucked up nails and shit. Anyway, so Sarasota. When I was homeless in Sarasota, that was the worst of all the places I've ever been, which is why I don't really get excited when people talk about Sarasota. They're always like, "Oh, let's go to Sarasota, frou frou," and I'm like, maybe it's frou frou for you, but it wasn't frou frou for me.